Hello, everyone, and welcome to the International Cannabis Conversation. I'm Jill Reddish, co-founder of the Global Cannabis Network Collective and a co-host of our episode today. I'm excited to be joined by my co-host and co-founder, Chris Day.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for the International Cannabis Conversation. As I try to remember to do every week, I wanted to thank trichomes.com for giving us a place to have some interesting conversation with cannabis companies all around the world. So make sure if you haven't subscribed yet that you hit that little subscribe button while you're listening in.
We have a great episode today. I'm very excited to be speaking with someone who's working with a company that's got a very truly global perspective. Our guest today is Mr. Manuel Victoria, who is the Chief Business Officer with Frontier Spectrum, a medical cannabis company. They're based in Canada and have operations in Colombia and Germany. And, welcome, Manuel. So excited to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Chris. As you said, we're a Canadian company focused on the medical side of the business of pharmaceutical. So thank you guys for having us here.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us. So just to kick us off, could you give us a bit about your background and how you came to be in the cannabis space and wound up with Frontier Spectrum?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, my background is from law firm. I graduated law firm in Spain, and since I graduated, I was always like focused on the business side. I never actually went on a law firm or all the law spectrum. But then, I started to joining different banks and then a fund asset manager. And then I realized that was like kind of my core thing, create things and be into business and have a lot of connection with people. And, so basically I ended up in the cannabis industry almost 3 years ago when I was in California visiting my girlfriend back then. And I realized what a boom was going on in California. I was, before I went to California, I read a lot of different things that were going on in Canada with the stock exchange booming and, all these great IPOs. And then when I was on the ground with my boots there, I saw that huge market this is going to be. And I started digging and then I just jumped into the cannabis industry. I got to say it's probably the only industry that I've seen that touches like a variety of different other industries, such as textile, biofuels, pharmaceutical industry. So it's huge. I mean, sky's the limit here.
Yeah, it's interesting that you came and sort of got your first taste in California of the space. I think a lot of people have seen California inspire other opportunities in different parts of the U.S. One thing that I have to ask about, though, is like how did the vision for the global scale of what you're doing come to pass? Because that actually is pretty rare. We were just talking to someone on a prior episode out of Canada where the discussion was, sometimes we have a hard time looking outside of our own province. And yet you're working with a company now that has some pretty interesting global vision around cultivation, supply chains, the medicinal markets, providing different pharmaceutical grade products. How did you jump from, hey, there's this cool thing happening in California to let's take over the world?
I always say that if you're going to do something, do it big. And if you're going to think big. So it takes the same amount of time to do something small and the same amount of time to do something big. So, the whole team, my partners, I think we're very like-minded. And since the beginning, we said like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this as big as we can. And I like what you said. We're trying to take the the world, and we're focused on a specific part of the industry where I don't know why, and as you said, everybody is thinking so locally, and probably getting into a different trends, but that's all huge of different soundings and misconceptions about the industry, because the industry is just being born. So you got to be very focused on what you're doing to actually see the results in the future years.
Yeah. And how would you describe your focus? Because I agree with you. Picking a specific focal point in the business does not need to be geographic. Obviously, you've decided we're not going to focus on a specific geography. We're going to focus on a specific piece of the business. What is that piece, and why did you choose it?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important to understand the different legal frameworks that nowadays the industry is moving on. And since every month is passing and every year is passing now, new legal frameworks are opening new opportunities. So once you understand how is the industry from its base is being run, then you can decide what kind of focus do you want with the whole spectrum of the industry. So we chose the pharmaceutical side of the industry, mainly because right now the biggest part of the industry is medicinal, and inside the medicinal part of the business, there's the pharmaceutical side of the business. So this probably niche part of the industry is the less, which has less competition, but has the biggest margins. And it's very difficult to jump in, but once you jump in, you're actually going for the long run. So that's why we chose the pharmaceutical side. And, pharmaceutical is global. You don't have to be in one region.
Yeah, at this point, I just kind of want to make sure that our audience can understand the type of operations that Frontier Spectrum does. So can you just back up for a quick moment and give us an overview of where you operate and what it is that you're focusing on, right now?
Perfect. So, well, Frontier Spectrum was born, as you said, as you know, as a global vision where we have all the cultivation side in Colombia. We're fully licensed in Colombia. We're focused on the pharmaceutical side of the extract, the API, what it's called. And then when you see the different markets and you understand that right now, like Germany is the biggest market to be in the pharmaceutical side, you point everything to not only have all the licenses and the certifications to be available to send your API and your extract to other markets, but also when you decide to go and focus on one side of the business, then you understand that you have to do some strategic moves around the industry to be diversified, mitigate risks. And that's why probably we chose, and I'll get a little bit into the structure of Frontier Spectrum, we chose to be not exactly be vertically integrated. And we chose to have like SUBs, small business units, all creating value to our holding company in Canada, so that we can move very fast with the legal frameworks, and we can be very flexible in order to adjust, because it's a very changing industry. So we have to be very flexible.
Yeah, I feel like we are beginning the outline of a future Harvard Review business study case. Talking about the holding company framework, the SBUs, and being able to pivot those SBUs so that if one piece of the industry starts to crater or not serve its purpose, the others still are intact and can be successful. It's really smart, and having, prior to getting into cannabis, worked in a lot of different industries, it feels like, it's in a lot of ways helping to support the sophistication of the global marketplace in ways that aren't always super easy to find right now. So kudos to that. And, as you're looking at, we've talked about Germany, Colombia, and some of your in Canada, but I know you guys are also sort of having a vision to other regions of the world as longer plays, right? So it's not just the short-term piece. You're also trying to do predictive analysis on long-term markets.
That's right. We do a lot of research and kind of business intelligence uh, boot kind of camp with the different markets. And uh, just before we run into different markets that we're analyzing right now, like in the pharmaceutical side, I know we're right now prescribing medicines to patients in Germany and everything. And what we have identified is that we can replicate our model and escalate it very quickly and bring it to Latin America regions such as Colombia is a huge market. Mexico will be another big market, which is right now kind of almost popping, and that has the stock market a little bit crazy. And Brazil is the fourth biggest pharmaceutical market in the world. Nobody's saying that, but we know that Brazil is going to be a huge market for us. So basically, how we've run things in Frontier Spectrum is, as I said, we're like-minded people, very passionate, and we like to dig in and kind of put our boots on the ground and see the different legal frameworks that are going on. And Africa, for instance, is kind of a huge market. Also, it could be comparable with cost productions with Latin America, specifically with Colombia. But of course, having an operation in Africa not always is easy. So we kind of chose the right partners to be in that market, which is our co-partners in our pharmaceutical company in Germany, which is a UK company that has medicinal cultivation side in Africa. That let us leverage ourselves only depending on one side also of production, and will take us strategically to overcome different other markets like the African market, Southeast Asia market. We have huge markets there. So and also we have identified that Uruguay, which is actually the first country to legalize everything and started the whole thing. It's kind of a small country and nobody looks right now to Uruguay, or used to be looked 4 years ago, but then everybody just forgot about Uruguay. But Uruguay has a huge advantage on the distribution side of the business. So we're working locally with, all certified producers to kind of approach the market, the pharmaceutical market of the flower from Uruguay. As you know, Colombia doesn't allow right now to export the flower. Actually, maybe with a new kind of law that is going on right now with the Ministry of Justice and the president that is right now sitting here in Colombia, they will probably open the country for the export of flower. But we don't know. It's just speculation. So we're kind of moving very strategically to kind of address every corner of the pharmaceutical market. And one of the things I want to say, that one of the things that probably is a competitive advantage of Frontier Spectrum is that we always not only analyze the market and the legal framework itself, but we partner with local partners in the market to operate and to validate our business model. So that's why we did the same thing in Germany, and that's one of the key facts that our business model works, is that we have the best pharma guys with us as partners, and we know how to do the business.
Yeah, I think the old phrase was think global, act local, right? So always keeping in mind what those individual cultural aspects of business operations are in those regions.
Yeah.
One sidebar that I want to comment on, when you mentioned Uruguay, at the Global Cannabis Network Collective, we have a member that is tied to the Montevideo Free Airport, right? And it is interesting to me how smaller countries like Uruguay, another one is Malta in Europe, right, are finding their niche positions and those things that they can do really, really well to help create commerce, and not trying to be all things to all people. And it's clear that Uruguay is taking a position of trying to, be a logistics and operational hub to help South America and thus facilitate export, not only throughout South America, but around the world. So that was another support point for what you were saying. And it's nice to hear it from multiple angles.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, now that you were talking about like Malta and Uruguay, I think that those small countries have a unique thing that probably bigger countries does not have, is that they have to be kind of reinvention like every 5 years, every 10 years to keep up pace and also to be competitive in different industries. I used to work in an asset manager in Malta, and I mean, Malta wasn't, they developed a very finance structure, very strong financial structure to kind of compete with Luxembourg, Switzerland, and everything. And nobody was looking to Malta, so they're always reinventing. Now they're doing the same thing with the cannabis spectrum. They did that the same thing with blockchain. So I think we have to learn a lot from those kind of countries, and Uruguay is doing the same.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the companies like yours that are looking for those places that are actively reinventing, instead of just, like some of the larger countries arguing about things in court systems for a decade, right? There are these other operators who are saying, yeah, well, you all do that. You argue, you do that thing. We're going to go build some businesses, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, we're taking advantage of those kind of things, and also learning and applying some of those things to our own frontier structure. And that's how we do, and we run business.
Yeah, one of the things that I found so interesting about is you're talking the small business units. You really spread out over the globe. Can you tell us about your approach to keeping, connectivity between all of your employees, all of your teams, so that you stay cohesive? That's a particular challenge in and of itself.
It is, and also it's a multicultural kind of structure. So I won't say it is easy. We all have different things, but mainly I think that one of the greatest things that we have is that since we were born as a company, we're trying to do things differently, and there's a new kind of doing business that is happening right now within our eyes. So I think we're or we want to kind of do the leadership in that kind of matter. So 1 year ago, there were a lot of companies saying that, no, you need to go to the office, you need to be here, you can't work from home. And COVID has changed everything. And we did it 2 or 3 years ago when we were with our first company here in Colombia. We built the company from 10,000 miles away from each other. So we kind of proved that it was possible, that we were fully licensed as we were speaking, and as we were working through Europe and South America, and it was possible. So we kind of replicate the same thing as Frontier Spectrum was growing, and we have to be very organized and have different meetings, and very minded and very self-careful of what you're doing, and you know that everything that you do will impact others. So you have to be very sensitive and a lot of responsibility. But that's how I think great teams work, and that's probably the magic of Frontier Spectrum. Different people joining together, like-minded, trying to do things differently.
Yeah, a whole new interpretation for how the world just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And of course, the value of paying attention to each other and what different teams need to be successful.
Totally. Yeah. And also, I want to say that, from our company in Canada, all the managing partners have different roles in the different operations that we are running right now. So we are also boots, not physically, but in day-to-day basis. We're in Germany, we are in Colombia, we're in Uruguay, and we're moving around and evaluating new kinds of opportunities with other local teams.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue into one of the final things we were wondering about. If you're looking out 2 to 3 years ahead, where do you predict that the biggest part of your business will be coming from? What's coming up next for you guys?
Well, I think that for us, like in kind of a midterm, it's going to be replicate our pharmaceutical business model in Germany in other markets, such as Colombia, Mexico, and others. And for sure, we're gonna right now because we're doing master formulas for different treatments like epilepsy and ADHD and oncology. But we are doing also a lot of clinical trials through all the patients that we're prescribing right now. So in a couple of years, we can launch our own kind of pharmaceutical products worldwide without you doing any master formula. And I don't know if I'm too, I'm a big dreamer or what, but I'm definitely focused on trying to treat and cure cancer. I hope that with the cannabis, we can definitely do something like that, and we'll do all the clinical trials so we can achieve at least a small part of that.
Yeah, I think when I've looked at research in different parts of the globe, one of the things that I have been most intrigued by is the scientific research specifically around cancer. I remember the very first conference I went to when I got into the cannabis industry was a science conference. Mm-hmm. And there was a researcher from Israel that stood up and was talking about research they'd been doing into breast cancer. And it seemed as though there were some opportunities there. I went and saw the same person represent 3 years later and got a chance to see the amazing progress that was made there. I think, the more people and companies like yourself around the world really actually dedicating time and resources and effort, there's some great potential for this industry to make huge impacts in a positive way around disease and pain and things that previously I think the pharmaceutical companies on the surface talked a good game, but underneath didn't really want to solve. So I'm hopeful that, the cannabis industry can step up and start helping to fill some of those holes.
Totally. And I think that we're seeing a new kind of pharma industry being born, a biopharma, which will be a challenge for big pharma. And we're definitely going to try to leadership that kind of new uprising of the new pharmaceutical business. And for sure, we're doing a lot of research and a lot of breakthroughs on cancer. Actually, with our partner, the Charité Hospital, we've run studies that already has bigger kind of a success than the chemotherapy right now with CBD. So there are obviously a lot of tests and different studies that we have to see in the future. But there's a possibility for us to kind of challenge the cancer disease on a big scale.
Well, I think the goal of curing cancer is a high note that we can exit this on for sure. Jill, it occurs to me that with this discussion, we need to do a session with researchers and really dig into the endocannabinoid system. Because that's the next layer of this discussion, right? It's the science behind the business. And,
totally.
Manuel, thanks so much for touching on that and the purpose that you guys have behind your business. Have great respect for companies who can articulate their mission beyond just the monetary aspects of it. So we're looking forward to talking to you more in the future and continuing to follow your team's work around the world.
Thank you very much, Chris, Jill. Thank you for having us. And as you said, we have a different perspective, and we kind of try to do new kind of business and regenerate in the cultivation side, regenerate the environment, not just being sustainable. We kind of do business differently, and I hope that we achieve all our goals. That's the main objective here.
Yeah, and if we manage to make that happen, there's going to be a lot of people living much healthier lives, and I imagine. So it's clear that Frontier Spectrum is a company to be following in the next couple of years. So thank you so much for your time and joining us today, Manuel. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.